BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Iona Ballantyne and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Monday the 1st of September. And it wasn't a classic in the first Old Firm derby of the season.
It's all over. Celtic will be the happier, but they were poor again today, the champions. And Rangers have played 4 league matches, and whilst they're unbeaten, they haven't won any of them.
Where does a drab goalless draw at Ibrox leave the Glasgow Giants? And that wasn't the only derby.
But it's driven into the net by Ivan Dolček, who ties up the points for Dundee United.
We'll guide you through what Sunday's results mean. And there was late drama on Saturday.
Kazaridas has won it for Hearts! It's a break in the ball and he opens his body up and curls it round the keeper into the back of the net. It's carnage!
Hearts edged Livingston and Motherwell and Kilmarnock shared the spoils.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
So, welcome to Monday's Scottish Football Podcast. Join me for this one, Cammy Bell, former Rangers, Kilmarnock and Dundee United goalkeeper, and the Herald's football writer at large, Stephen McGowan. Now, we usually say there's never a dull weekend in Scottish football, but some fans of some clubs may argue that point tonight, Cammy.
Yeah, certainly. I think you're referring to the Old Firm game. I was there today at Ibrox, and it was it wasn't the most exciting. I think it probably suited both managers a little bit the way that it went, but it definitely wasn't an exciting match that we're used to, that the Old Firm normally brings us.
Stephen, to quote Tom English on the BBC Sport Scotland website, he said, half an hour after an almost offensively poor Old Firm derby had ended, a seagull swooped down from above the Sandy Jardine stand at Ibrox. In the millisecond it took to flip a piece of bread in the air and shove it down its beak while staying airborne, it provided more entertainment than the players had done for the 90 minutes that went before. Would you agree with that sweeping statement?
I'm always very reluctant to agree with anything Tom English says, but on this occasion, it's very difficult to find fault with his logic. I thought it was a dreadful game of football. I don't think it's entirely surprising. I think you have a team which can't really defend against a team which has forgotten how to score. Celtic have become toothless, they've become laboured, they've become pedestrian. I think for Rangers they were quite medicinal today because after Brugge, where Rangers were 5 down at half time, it was a great start. Brugge had 75 touches in the Rangers half in the first half in Belgium, and Celtic had 3 today. Didn't have any shots on target. Failed to get a shot on goal to the 60th minute, failed to get a corner until the 70th. So, yeah, 2 pretty poor pallid teams, and I think 0-0 was probably an accurate reflection of where they are just now.
It is quite incredible, isn't it, when you hear the stats like that? I mean, Cammy, as you mentioned, you were at Ibrox. What was the atmosphere like with that end result?
Yeah, listen, the atmosphere was okay before the game, as it always is. Both sets of fans up for it, looking for the result. But certainly as the game went on, it became flat, like Celtic's performance. And Rangers, again, just didn't. Again, they've struggled defensively. They looked okay because Celtic were so poor going forward. But offered nothing towards the Celtic goal either. So, yeah, the atmosphere soon felt flat during the game, and they realised the poor showing of what was on in front of them, and just the quality throughout the game from both sides as well. I can't really pick any team out. It was just poor throughout the game from both sides. Lack of quality, lack of any intensity from either teams wanting to go and take the game to the other, and again they almost just cancelled each other out and kind of felt like they both accepted the draw well before the full-time whistle.
Stephen, I mean, Russell Martin is known for a certain style of play. What did you make of his approach for this one?
I thought it was better in terms of let's be honest, I think Ian Crocker and Sky summed it up before kick-off when he said that people fear the worst and hope for the best. And I think that was very much the way Rangers supporters were feeling going to Ibrox today. I think I spoke to Rangers pals who were concerned about a pasting. Now, I don't think that was ever a possibility because As I said earlier, this Celtic team have lost their cutting edge compared to where they were 12 months ago. But Rangers fans feared the worst. I mean, it's quite amazing that actually, I think you said that Motherwell and St Mirren and so on caused Rangers more problems than Celtic did. So in that respect, Rangers were competitive. If anything, I would say they looked the more likely team to grab a goal and to win. They came close with the John Souttar offside one, but as Cammy says, they didn't get a shot on target either. So in terms of general goalmouth incidents, it's very hard to think of anything at all. Really, it was bizarre in just how uneventful it was.
Bizarre is certainly a good word, Stephen, to describe it. And I mean, Martin also said that Cyril Dessers has played his last game for Rangers. Cammy, how would you sum up his time at Ibrox?
Yeah, listen, Cyril Dessers for me is one that's absolutely split the fans. And again, I think when you look at his figures and the goals that he scored for Rangers have been very, very important over the last few seasons. So, yeah, Russell Martin was quick and sort of identifying that it was his last game. I was there after the game. I didn't really see him going round the fans and clapping them, which I was quite surprised at. I thought he would have stayed on and clapped the fans because, listen, I know he's a good character around the place. A lot of the players like him. He seems to have a general good feel-good factor around him. So I thought he would have stayed on the pitch. So it was just an interesting one that Russell Martin had dropped in there, that this was going to be his last game. I thought Cyril Dessers would have clapped the fans. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Certainly will. And just looking at that result, Stephen, where does it leave Russell Martin? Does that draw alleviate some pressure on him?
Well, you might think it's better than losing, but it leaves him as the first Rangers manager since I think John Gregg in 1983 to go the first four games of the season without winning. So it's not a great place to be. I mean, they're sitting seventh in the table. Now it's not terribly consequential at the minute, but they're still 6 points behind Celtic, and that's never a comfortable place for a Rangers manager to be. I think Russell Martin said that Andrew Kavanagh was at the training ground on Saturday morning, offered reassurance to the players, it was like Red Adair taking a water cannon in, trying to douse the flames that have been springing up around the manager's feet. Time will tell how he does that, because the next game for Rangers, of course, is Hearts, who are level pegging with Celtic at the top of the table, order in goal difference. And I would imagine, actually, I wouldn't be at all surprised, given the way Hearts are going, they'll give Rangers more problems than Celtic did.
Mm-hmm. And we know that Hearts want to push and really they said that they want to split the Old Firm, usually at the top of the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they should fancy their chances. I think it's a bit unfortunate for Hearts this has all come so soon. I mean, Tony Bloom said he wanted to be the great disruptor of Scottish football, and I think if you see signings like Claudio Braga, who's been a terrific signing for Hearts, that looks apart, and you saw some impact substitutes yesterday, they've got a real chance of doing that. It might be a bit too soon for them now, which is unfortunate, because I don't think, albeit allowing for the fact that Rangers and Celtic will make signings in the final day of the window, I don't think you can remember a time when the two of them at the same point have been so weak and vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. And Cammy, looking at Celtic, where does the result leave them? Yeah,
listen, it's been such a disappointing week for Celtic, obviously going out of the Champions League. And yes, it's at Ibrox, the game. We all know they've not got a good recent record at Ibrox as well. So I think Brendan Rodgers wasn't happy with the performance. He was happy defensively, which they've been sort of sound all season. Another clean sheet that they've got. But again, what they're offering going forward wasn't a lot. And that's been the problem this season. So he needs to get reinforcements in the door. He's making the right noises, and I'm pretty sure there'll be a lot of activity around Celtic in the next 24 hours. So yeah, listen, they're probably happy enough to get a draw and come out unscathed, and they've got their 6 points gap at the moment. So yeah, listen, it is what it is for Celtic, and they just need to move on.
A month ago, people knew that Celtic needed a centre forward. They knew that they needed a right winger, they knew they needed a left winger. They've got Balak-Risha in with a fairly indifferent beginning. They've still not got a right winger, they've still not got a striker. They might get them in tomorrow. Too little, too late, I think will be the cry, because they are out of the Champions League. £20 million has gone down to Swanee, and they failed to beat their biggest rivals for the first time in a year. So, I don't really know what the strategy's been. It's been absolutely bewildering and baffling. And even if they do put it right tomorrow with a couple of marquee signings, there will still be this sense of what might have been for Celtic.
And the thing is, as well, as the frustration is clear to see and hear coming out of Celtic in terms of that.
Absolutely. I mean, the fans are understandably baffled, angry and irate. I mean, they have something like between 70 and 80 million pounds at the last count in the bank. It was 65 last time. They've since added Champions League money, various money for Nicholas Kuhn, and signings the sales have managed to make. So it's absolutely incomprehensible, other than this point of view they have, that they do the best deals in the final days of the window. Well, if you look at the heavy weather they're making at the minute and signing Casper Dolberg, even if they do it tomorrow, the chances are they'll have to overpay, the same as they did for Ademida and the same as they did for Arne Engels and Austin Trusty last year. So I think fans are entitled to ask questions. Unfortunately, I don't think they'll get answers.
Big 24 hours in the window ahead. And even looking at Dyson Maeda in that match, looking quite subdued today, Cammy. What has gone wrong for him this season?
Yeah, listen, he's not hit the form that certainly was in last season, nowhere near that. He looks a little bit lost at the moment, and again, that's just down to form. But again, when your team's not playing well, and solely they're relying on your goals, and that's where all the pressure comes. It becomes difficult as the main player if you're going through a little bit of a slow period yourself. So I think it's just reflection on where Celtic are as a team at this moment in time. They're not firing on all cylinders, and that's the same for Dyson Maeda. He just can't find that form. He can't find the goals he was getting last season. And ultimately, that's throughout the whole team. I look at Callum McGregor today. I don't think he hit the heights. He didn't run the game as he normally does, and certainly wasn't the influence he normally is for Celtic. So it's throughout the whole Celtic team that they're struggling at this moment in time. So it's not just down to individuals. I think they need to get right together as a team first.
Well, Stephen, that was a fourth Old Firm game without a win for Brendan Rodgers. Will the fans start to ask questions about his tactics in these bigger games?
I think it's started already. I mean, I think style of play is less important than quality on the pitch. But I think, I struggle to remember his name off the top of my head, but there was a famous Hungarian coach who once said that the third season can be fatal for a manager because players get a little bit complacent. They've heard it all before. The message ceases to be quite so fresh. And I think Brendan Rodgers has never really hung around anywhere too much longer than 3 seasons. So there does tend to be a bit of a wall. We saw that at Celtic, we saw at Liverpool too. I think he lasted slightly longer at Leicester City. So I just wonder whether that will be a question will be asked more and more, whether actually, as he goes into the last year of his contract, whether actually will probably suit both sides if they actually do get some freshness at Celtic Park along the way.
Well, an old firm to forget. Now, elsewhere on Sunday, the bragging rights in the City of Discovery were up for grabs, and that turned out to be quite a straightforward 2-0 win for Dundee United. Jim Goodwin getting his tactics spot on, Cammy, in this one, focusing on Dundee's left side. Yeah,
absolutely. Listen, I think Dundee United have got a fantastic team. I think they've started the season well. I covered their game against Hearts at home, where they got beat 3-2, but they were really good value for that day in general. And again, they had that European game midweek against Vienna. So there was lots of reasons why they didn't win that game. So yeah, it was a very comfortable victory for Dundee United today. Dundee were really disappointing for me. But certainly Jim Goodwin's signings he's made this season. Dolchek, I think, is a fantastic signing. I think he's got to go on and have a really good season. So yeah, it was a routine victory and one that Jim Goodwin will be absolutely delighted with going into the international break.
As you mentioned, Cammy, Zach Sapsford and even Dolchek, 2 of Jim Goodwin's summer signings with the goals. Stephen, a lot has been said of the 14 signings that Jim Goodwin's brought in, but they seem to have settled really well and playing really well.
There was always that question about the number of nationalities in the dressing room. I think it's something like 17 different nationalities. I think it was a figure somewhere, it's 10% of the number of members in the United Nations are represented the Tannadice dressing room. And there's going to be a natural concern about how they're going to meld together, whether they're going to be cohesive or not. And actually, they look okay. They look in good shape. I like Cammy. I'm pretty concerned about Dundee. I think from the off, I was concerned that they would be relegation fodder. I mean, frankly, Aberdeen are holding them up at the moment, but I just don't know where the wins are going to come from unless they can get Simon Murray pulling on his superhero cape again. There was always a contentious aspect to Stephen Presley getting that job, and the team are not doing much to take that away just now.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Stephen Presley said after the match day they're still in the early stages. He knows there's a lot to do with this squad, particularly improve offensively. He says that will come with time, but Cammy, how do you determine time at this stage?
Yeah, listen, he's got a couple of weeks ahead he's still where he can get the players on the training ground, and that's probably where he's looking at potentially improving them. But they need to improve fast. They can't get complacent in the way that they've been recruiting. They'll want to get more players in. They've got to gel together as a team. There was a lot of question marks when Stephen Presley came in the door and a lot of negativity around it. He got that result at Ibrox where he got the draw, and you almost thought, is that a point they're going to turn the corner? But again, today's a damaging result because we all know the Dundee fans love the derby. They want to win in the derby and how much it means to them. And again, it was just so easy for Dundee United today. And I think that's probably the damaging thing for Dundee and the worrying thing for Dundee, how easy it was for Dundee United to get the 3 points.
Well, that result leaves Dundee still without a win in the league. It was also an afternoon to forget for Jimmy Tulline. Aberdeen lost 1-0 at home to Falkirk. I mean, Nicky Devlin's red card was, of course, a key moment. But Stephen, that leaves Aberdeen without a win in the league so far.
I think there was always a concern. There was always going to be question marks about, was the cup final papering over the cracks? And if you look at the league form before, Hampden wasn't great. They didn't finish last season well. I think you could actually say going back to October, they haven't been especially consistent. And you look at the way they've started this season, okay, they've had tough games. They played Hearts, they played Celtic. That's not easy. But today, that's a game you absolutely have to be winning. You have to be winning that. I think they're still concerned about how they're going to fare up front. They're still trying to get the right combination, of course. You look about Shropshire, they're not scoring enough goals. Going down to 10 men didn't help them today, but this is definitely a concerning time for Jimmy Tulline. As he said after the game, he just needs to find a way to win just now. I don't think it really matters how they do it. They need to get off the mark and they need to restore a bit of belief in the team.
Yeah, they need to, because the fans certainly were not happy with that today. But on the other hand, Cammy, a great result for Falkirk. That was their first top flight victory in 15 years. What will that mean for them?
Listen, that'll give them all the confidence they need, especially against an Aberdeen team who, when you look from the outside in, it's a team that certainly should be at the top end of our league in Scotland. So yeah, they've got to take confidence from that. They've started the season reasonably okay with regards to performances and being competitive, but to get that first victory, it's key for John McGlynn and his side, because he's got a young team in there as well. Again, Scott Bain had a fantastic game today, made a number of big saves. I think he's been a key signing for them to get an experienced goalkeeper in at the back. So, yeah, I just think that could really kick them on, especially just before the international break as well. That'll just allow them to breathe a little bit and not be under too much pressure and do some work on the training ground, and also allow the players to have a little bit of time off, because it is intense when they get to this top flight. They're used to winning week in, week out, and it's not going to be like that this season.
Well, moving on, Hibs and St Mirren drew 1-1 at Easter Road. Hibernian passed up a number of chances, Stephen, but would you say they looked more like the team of last season?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this thing that happens when teams play against St Mirren, where the fans, we've seen it with Rangers and with Celtic fans, they tend to say, oh, that wasn't a great performance, that wasn't a great result, the same with Hearts. Actually, I think it's given not enough credit to St Mirren. Still haven't won a game yet, of course, but I mean, my goodness, Steve Robinson's created a really tough nut to crack, hasn't he? A really good, effective Scottish Premiership team. And I think, you know, you look at, they were unlucky to lose at Celtic, they get a point against Rangers. To go to Easter Road and get a point, that's really good going. And I think Hibs, like Aberdeen, they're going to feel the after effects of European exertions. And I think that was one of the points going back to Aberdeen again. They're going to struggle with that when they go into the group stage of the Europa Conference League. Hibs don't have that to worry about now, of course. So, you know, they'll probably get their legs about them and get back up on the way again. But disappointing for Hibs result, that I would have thought. But again, typical with Stephen Robinson's doing at St Mirren.
Cammy, is it surprising St Mirren have still to win a league game? It was, as Stephen said, a good performance from them.
Yeah, a good performance for St Mirren. I've seen them this season as well against Rangers only last weekend when they got that 1-1 draw. And again, they're a tough nut to crack, as Stephen said. They're well organised, they're physical, they're demanding of the opposition. So yeah, no surprises from me that they've went and made it difficult for Hibs at Easter Road. And listen, St Mirren will be up there this season. They'll be pushing for that top six. They'll be looking to try and get in there because they've got good players. Again, Killian Phillips is a great player for me, a key player. But throughout their squad, they've got a really strong squad, very physical, and they've got goals at the top end as well. So yeah, it wasn't surprising for me that they went and got a result at Easter Road.
Oh, exciting to see what they can do for the rest of the season. Now, just moving back to Saturday's games, Hearts needed a late winner to see off Livingston 2-1, the full-time result there. Stephen, if Hearts play like they did in the second half every game, they will have a good season. If they play like they did in the first half, maybe not so much.
Oh no, absolutely. But I think Derek McInnes admits he's trying to find the right mix at the moment. You know, they've got a lot of signings coming in. You know, they've signed a Brazilian midfielder that compares to Aguirre, it compares to a Rolls Royce. They're still going to bed these players in. They're still going to get there. But the important thing is they're still getting results while they're doing it. That's a hard thing to do. And we've seen that, particularly with Rangers, of course. They're still getting results. And I mean, to dig out that kind of win at Livingston, I think that's a really big statement, actually, for Hearts. And I really like the look of Claudio Braga. I think he looks a real find of the season, the player who's really going to have people talking. You know, he's had one or two off games, but he comes back, he always puts himself in there and he goes for more. And yeah, really good impact substitutions from Derek McInnes as well. So a great result for Hearts, that.
Cammy, as we kind of touched on earlier, we know that Hearts want to be the team to disrupt the top of the table as we know it, to separate the Old Firm. I know it is very early on in the season, but what are your thoughts at this stage?
Listen, they're doing well, certainly in the league. And again, I think Stephen's right. Yesterday's result was massive for Hearts because, again, the performance last weekend in that first half against Motherwell when they went 3-0 down at home, they had to show character to come back and get a draw, which wasn't the ideal result. They'd be looking to get 3 points against Motherwell at home. And then when they're 1-0 down away to Livingston in the league, that's a tough place to turn that around to get a victory and take all 3 points. And also, they've had the disappointment of going out the League Cup where Derek McInnes said he wanted to win a cup this season. So, yeah, listen, I think they've shown a huge amount of character. I think they've got a fantastic squad. Stephen mentioned it. Claudio Braga looks an absolute find this season. He's a key player and I think he'll go on to have a fantastic season.
It's interesting, they don't have Europe to worry about as well, Cammy. Yeah? I mean, I think that'll be a big factor for them, that they can keep themselves fresh and keep going at it every week, unlike certainly Aberdeen, Rangers and Celtic.
It does make such a difference because we've seen how much that impacts teams playing in Europe during the week.
Oh, massive.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely,
huge.
yeah.
It's absolutely huge. For me, again, Stephen said it. It makes all the difference. Derek McInnes has said it as well. He said it'll benefit his team this season that they're not playing in Europe. They can completely focus on the league. So listen, I think they'll have a really good season. But again, when we come back from international duty, then we'll really see what they're made of when they turn up to Ibrox, because that's one of the games that they'll identify trying to take points away, and there'll be a big statement if they can.
I was just going to say, the name I should have mentioned is Kazidis, the Greek substitute who come on. You're talking about an impact substitution. I mean, what a difference he made. Turned it around within 2 minutes of coming on. So, they're pulling good players out of the fire, and that's the name of the game.
And in terms of David Martindale, I mean, a typical Livingston performance. It's a team that always seems to know what they're doing.
I thought they could have got a point at the end, actually. I saw they had a couple of chances to actually make it 2-2 just in the final seconds. So they're never down, they're never out. You know what you're going to get from them. I think the pitch has improved, and that might help them as much as it helps the opposition. So, yeah, I think David Martindale's Livingston, I don't really worry about them. Some people make them kind of automatic relegation fodder every year. I don't think they will be, because I think they always have enough, because he's a clever coach, to really make them kind of, staples for certainly 7th or 8th, maybe, run about that area. So I think they'll be okay.
David Martindale will be very keen to prove people wrong. And in terms of Kilmarnock and Motherwell, Cammy, they shared the points at Fir Park in a 2-2 draw for the second week in a row. A goalkeeping error cost the home side the win. As a keeper, how do you pick yourself up from that?
Yeah, listen, it's really difficult. I heard the manager's interview after the game, who he backed the goalkeeper and said that he felt as if it potentially could have been a foul. There was a nudge on him, and again he said that he's came and claimed a number of other crosses in the game and been dominant. So he's backed him, which is good to see from a manager. But it's always difficult, especially when you've not got a game the following weekend. You have to dwell on it for that little bit longer. But he'll need to pick himself up. He'll absolutely need to do that because, as you say, Iona, it's been 2 weekends in a row that he's cost his team games that'll be playing on his mind. So he needs to react well to it because ultimately Motherwell would have been sitting in a much better position if he hadn't made them poor errors.
If you get that nudge, Cammy, are you in the referee's face? Are you claiming for that?
Probably not, Stephen, to be honest. I don't think there was enough in it for me when I seen it back. Yes, I'm saying probably not. I would have been in his face claiming for it, but again, deep down, I think there wasn't enough in it for a foul.
All right, well, let me ask you both, are you both ready for an international break now?
I'm never ready for an international break. I mean, it's funny. I mean, listen, I think if there was optimism around the Scotland team, it would be different. But I think people are a bit worried about this campaign. Denmark, then Belarus coming up. And I just don't, I think there's just this concern, this slight worry that this Scotland group of players, fantastic as they've been, are just beginning to go over the other side of the cliff a little bit. And I think that's a worry going to Denmark on Friday night. And apart from anything else, we're only 4 weeks into the league season and suddenly you're breaking it up again. There's going to be 3 international breaks between now and Christmas. So, yeah, not great timing for me. But, if you think they're going to win, that's different, obviously.
Some teams will very much welcome the break. Cammy, you optimistic about Scotland, though?
Listen, you've always got to be optimistic. I think you've got to hope that they can find their form again and get back where we've seen them and get to European competitions and obviously World Cups as well. So you've got to be optimistic, but unlike Stephen, has the best already been produced from this group? We'll wait and see.
Well, we live with hope. We are Scotland. We know how to do that. Now, that is all we've got time for. Many thanks to Cammy Bell and Stephen McGowan. And thank you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. So to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. That is another weekend in the league over. It is over. And Steve Clark's Scotland Now. Goodbye.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.